The manga starts, and the very first thing that we see is a giant castle in pitch-black darkness, and a mysterious figure is giving a mischievous smile. As she unsheathes a sharp sword, we actually see a beautiful woman with a really evil expression muttering on how the security of such big castles and houses are full of holes and blind spots, which makes it so that thieves and other assassins have an easy time breaking in, as she goes down closer to the princess's bedroom. As she made her way, she added on how devious the princesses are, and she started on how she hates women like that who are always in those elegant dresses and gowns and having such a lifestyle that is almost impossible for a normal girl. She cried that she wants to kill her, and maybe then she can become a happy person. She added that she would most probably be a much better fit for a princess, but as she starts to remind herself that she is here for a bigger reason, she added that she holds no grudges, for this is all for her own survival. She said this assassination must work no matter what, and as the assassin breaks in, she immediately screams at the top of her lungs, adding that the princess should be waking up. As she walks in, she ends up seeing that the princess was rather undergoing some physical measures with the prince, and as she screamed, the princess was in a really weird situation and the assassin started to go crazy. She started to scream that she is going to take her heart, and as the prince started to cover himself, the princess asked if this is a test or something, and the assassin just went crazy screaming that this is the sole reason she needs to care. As the princess started to get scared, she started to hide behind the prince, and she started to make a really weird expression, leading the prince to add that he should save her no matter what. And as the assassin was going nuts, she dashed towards the couple. As things got intense, the prince pushed the princess back, and the princess just fell and immediately struck her head with the corner of a table, which made a loud creaking and cracking sound. As the body of the princess slumped to the ground, both the assassin and the prince looked to the side because the sound was something serious. As they looked to their side, they saw that the princess was lying down in a rather uncomfortable position and blood covered the entire floor. It seemed like the princess was killed from that strike, and the prince screamed at the top of his lungs. He cried that the assassin had done something to the princess, and as he approached, the prince just started to tear up, crying that if the country's princess died just like this then they can land into a much bigger problem. As the prince started to show his fear, he was really looking for a solution. He immediately grabbed the assassin, telling her that if they cannot hold this together, the both of them are dead. And as he approached her, he started to cry about how he is a murderer in this place if the word of the princess's death goes out. As he started to ask if she is an assassin who should be good at disguises, the prince told her that she should do her best to disguise herself as the princess. As the assassin just brushes him off, she immediately smacks him really hard, adding that she would rather die than be a princess. But as we see her real face, the assassin is thrilled and cute, as she was just blown away because she really wanted to be a princess when she was a young kid. She just went crazy, looking to his side and adding how the prince was weird since they were about to make love just a few minutes ago, and now he is all of a sudden ditching his beloved and asking someone else to become her replacement. As she said this, the prince lowered his head, adding on how he has been harassed and pushed by the princess so much that he was used to being forced by her. Now, as he says that he was being harassed by the princess for almost all the time, the assassin shouts from the back, screaming that he doesn't need to start acting like a victim here as he definitely pushed her first. As he starts kneeling down and begging her over and over again, it seemed like the prince was really in trouble, and he wanted the assassin to play the princess no matter what. As he starts to scream, he aggressively tells the assassin that she is also a part of this murder, and if she wants to escape this together and live a better life than ever, she can turn to his side. As she was about to leave, she added that she didn't even lift a finger and she does not want to take part in this. As she slowly walks away, the prince starts adding on how this is a foolish move. He starts to add how she has so much talent and so much to give, yet she is going to choose the path of an assassin who, for most of their life, lives in shadow and never sees a day of happiness. As he leaves her questioning, he added that all the luxury that is almost guaranteed for her is just one step away. He asks if she really wants to do this. As the assassin was really strong-minded, she completely breaks down. She starts to tremble and starts to blush, asking if she will even do a good part as a princess. From the side, the prince screams that she is a natural princess. He started to compliment her, and his praise ends up starting to work out as she starts to blush. He asks if this is a yes, and the assassin takes a small pause before immediately starting to portray a perfect attitude like a princess. As the prince and the assassin finally settle on a promise, they add that they are now going to play a dangerous game that both of them are going to take part in. On the other hand, the real princess was still in her pajamas, lying there lifeless. The prince didn't even show a single ounce of remorse for his princess, and as they finally start to think about how to clean the corpse, they were ready to do the dirty job. Moments later, as the assassin was digging a hole, she was super sweaty, and she finally shoved the body inside a big hole. She added how burying the dead body of the princess is much better than leaving it outside for the dogs, since they could create a scene. As she gives a wish to the princess and starts walking back, the assassin was wondering if this is the right thing. Basically, she killed a national-level treasure and the daughter of the king, and now she is going to portray the same exact person. As she returns, she just reminded herself that it is what it is. As she opened the door, she exclaimed that she is back. On the other hand, the prince had done a perfect job of scraping all the blood and all the spots that were dirty, leaving no trace behind that the princess was even there. Then, the assassin started to dance, adding that she cannot wait to be a princess. The prince reminds her to stay sharp and tells her she needs to start working on the attitude and personality that the previous princess had, since obviously if she gets too excited, she is going to let her guard down, and if she lets her guard down, people will start to speculate. As she totally just ignored his warning, she commanded him to give her the royal dress that the princess wears. As she wears it, she was stargazed by the elegance. The prince just added that it looks good, and she makes a joke, telling him that although he has been complimenting her a lot, he should not fall for her. Saying this just triggers the prince to a whole other level, and he screams at the top of his lungs that he would never ever fall for a woman that looks exactly like the terrible trouble he had just gotten rid of. As he became troubled, he just looked to the other side and told her that she just need to play the part of the princess, and he keeps telling her to be super careful. Now, as he starts to make a list, he added that her identity and facial features are so close to the original that they don't need to work on that, but he started to add that she needs to mimic the personality and the speech in order to perfectly fool the maids and the royal family. He also added that there was a specific habit the princess had that she needs to do no matter what so they don't get caught. As she asked about this, he just made a troubled face and started to lower his head, explaining how the previous princess was a super obsessive lover. She was so clingy and so much in love that she didn't give a single ounce of space to the prince day or night. She was always together with him, and she was always either doing night practices or was always looking forward to their bedtime. As he started to remember her vicious and hungry face for love, he screamed and cried that in order for her to become a princess, she needs to make a move on him in public and also be super clingy. As she screamed about how on God's good green earth she can do it, he added that this is the truth and the princess was truly abnormal. He added that she was extremely vicious and active at night, so much so that he had to cry and beg her to stop and give him some rest. As she started to add that the princess was truly weird, she asked if she has to flirt with him in public. As the prince agrees, she takes a small pause and immediately screams at the top of her lungs that she is going to drop out. On the other hand, the prince starts to blackmail her, adding how she had already put on the dress and now she cannot go, as her life as a princess has already begun. As he started to manipulate her, she added that she cannot do this weird request of flirting and doing other things with him. Now, he added that if she can overcome this small obstacle, then everything he told her is going to be hers. As the assassin starts to practice, she makes a pissed expression and struggles to just say, "I love you," to the prince. On the other hand, the prince was just screaming, telling her to put more effort and love into the words. As the both of them fought for the whole night, they made sure to give a perfect performance so that their disguise and their plan works out in the end. On the other hand, from the grave, a woman started to mutter the name of the prince over and over again, and a hand reached out. It reaches out, and the dead princess of the kingdom emerges from the grave, and she starts to ask herself where exactly she is. As she notices blood on her head, she wondered if this is a wound. She started to ask if she is alone and if the prince abandoned her. Thinking about this, she started to go crazy, adding that if the prince is with another woman then it is going to be unforgivable. And as the life of both the assassin and the prince starts to play around trouble, it was not meant for a poor prince like him. The next morning, as the assassin wakes up from her wonderful sleep, she starts to first look around. And as she notices that everything around her was shiny, expensive, and luxury, she realized that yesterday she actually became a princess. And from the side, as the prince entered, he asked if she is feeling all right. And on the other hand, the assassin was just happy as she screamed and boasted to everyone that now she is a winner in life and she had successfully climbed the ladder of poverty. As she screamed this over and over on the balcony, the prince asks from the back if she even wants to stay hidden at this point, because if she screams like this then somebody might actually hear them. Hearing this, the assassin wanted to remind the prince of her position, and she tells him that if anyone ever dares to point their fingers at the princess then she will hang them. And as she started to do this, the prince asked if she is enjoying the part of being a princess so much. As they were talking, from the back a maid was approaching, adding on how she was reading novels but now she has to wake the princess and get the chores done. And as she was approaching the main room where the princess and the prince usually sleep, she opens the door only to find that the assassin was on top of the prince who was screaming and there was a commotion going on. And as the assassin sees that the maid just sees them and starts to mutter about something, knowing that she needed to get into character, she immediately starts to play the part of a woman who is madly in love with the prince. Now, for a minute, she wanted to refuse it and had to take some time to switch into the character. From the back, the prince added that this is important and she needs to play her part. And as he reminded her of the personality that the previous princess had, she just bit into her embarrassment and she tells the maid that they just woke up. And when she just saw the face of the prince, she could not hold back anymore, and as she requests the maid to give them some time alone. On the other hand, the maid just gets into a panic and she tells them that she is going to prepare the breakfast. While leaving, she added that they can come down whenever they feel comfortable. The assassin, on the other hand, was exhausted. Just one move from her side to play this part was taking so much energy that she hated it so much. Now the prince tells her that she is not bad for her first time. And as the assassin obviously just ran to the side and covered her face, she screamed that she cannot take this torture and cried that any other torture would be perfect for her. Now she asked if they have to do this forever, and as the prince reminds her that obviously they both are a couple. Hearing this, she starts to cry, adding that she has already reached her limit and she cannot do this. And from the back, the maid brings them their breakfast, and when she sees the beautiful food that was served to her, just seeing the food, her attitude changed. She started to chug down the food, and she just forgot all about her misery. And on the other hand, the prince just lets out a big sigh of relief, adding that she is just really difficult to deal with. He asks if she is in a better mood, and she added that she is indeed in a good mood and she can also kill as many princesses as she can, just to get this type of food on her plate every day. As the assassin thinks about something for a minute, the prince tells her once again to not let her guard down at all because their real test is just starting now. He adds that to convince everyone better she needs to start pressing her body against his arm all the time. And as she hears this, immediately she screams that if he is getting too cocky then she is going to slaughter him. And as the maid joins them once again in a more uncomfortable time, she walks in on them, and the assassin was on top of the prince one more time and the maid screamed that they need to give each other a break as she screams that she does not want to watch it over and over again. The assassin teared up, and on the other hand, the prince was just crying to himself and reminding himself that if she is also after his body then he wants to run away. After a few hours as they left, the assassin was told once again by the prince that she needs to cling as much as possible to him and this is the only way to convince all the big players around them. And as she was stargazed and blushing like crazy, she did not want to do this at all. She was just finding a way to run away, but at the same time, she really wanted to enjoy all the benefits and luxuries that the princess had. As she questioned why exactly her heart is racing, she looks to her side only to see the prince and she reminded herself that this man is a piece of trash and if she wants to live this life, then she needs to be around him no matter what. In a small period of time, the assassin was starting to feel a little bit closer to the prince and felt as if they were a married couple, and she asked if she would be all right having a spouse in her life so early. And from the back, the prince just shoves his arm away and he tells her that she is suffocating him and she can stop now. As he wipes the dust and jumps away from her, he walks off leaving her with humiliation, and as she cried on how she wants to stab him over and over again she added that maybe the prince hates women because he was mistreated by the previous princess. Now their main goal was to check the site where they had buried the princess because it was important to keep an eye on what was going on around it. And as they reached the place, they saw that the grave was empty and the prince screamed at the top of his lungs asking what is going on. The assassin Misa tells him that maybe the dogs had dug out the body and ate it or something, but the prince screams that if that was the case then there would surely be blood trails and remains of some sort. As they both started to argue with each other, from the back the real princess shows up and she started to hum an eerie-looking tune telling the prince that she had finally found him. Seeing this, the life from the prince's body leaves his existence and he starts to shiver in pure fear. And the real princess started to cry on how she was dying from loneliness. She commands the prince to hurry up and comfort her, and as she approached she was going crazy and she quickly asked who exactly is the person standing with him. As the real princess also noticed how the appearance and the face of the girl next to the prince is exactly like her, she asks who she is. And Misa, on the other hand, replies adding that she is the princess now. She mocks her, adding on how she was supposed to be dead and rotting in the ground. A black force started to surround the real princess's body and immediately she dashes, screaming at the top of her lungs that the prince is hers and hers alone. She obviously ran through the prince and only attacked Misa, and as she started to dodge and fight the real princess's attack, she was actually wide open and attacking without any proper plan, but she was extremely fast, way faster than any normal human being. So Misa gathers all her energy at once, and she does the impossible, and she stabs the princess right in her stomach, putting an end to her life right there. As she stabs, and the dead body of the real princess drops to the ground, the prince takes a pause, and with a confident tone, he calls out to Misa and tells her that they better bury the body properly this time, and they cannot mess up at all. As they start to hear voices from the back, the real princess once again stands up, adding on how everything is strange ever since she had woken up, and nothing hurts her anymore, and she does not even feel sleepy anymore. As she pulls out the knife that was stabbed in her stomach, she does it without any ounce of pain or discomfort. Misa added on how the princess has become a monster princess. The real princess starts to mutter over and over again that she is so cold, and she wants the prince to use his body to warm her up right now. As she starts to see that she is not feeling any pain, she added that she still feels cold, and she points to the prince, adding that it is the prince's job to warm the princess up no matter what. And as she says this, she starts to approach him in a menacing way, and the prince just loses it. He screams and cries in agony, telling his maker that he does not want to go back to the life of a slave that he lived a few days ago. As he says this, Misa breaks the ice and she starts to ask her how exactly she is alive in the first place, as the real princess added that she is alive because she wants to enjoy life. But after hearing this, Misa explains to her on how yesterday she was supposed to be dead, as she had no pulse, and today as well. Misa exclaims that she ran a knife through her stomach and she is supposed to be dead, and she also remarked on how the attacks and the power she exerted a few moments ago were beyond normal human levels. As the princess started to add on how she does not like to overcomplicate things, she just makes a menacing smile, and she tells Misa that she does not care about anything, and she just wants to be loved by the prince, and there is no time for her to die right now. As the cold-hearted assassin Misa herself kind of gets spooked out, the prince on the other hand just knew that he cannot go empty-handed, so he starts to drink his fear. He starts to call out to her, adding on how he is glad that she is safe, and he had been looking for her since yesterday. And as he approached her, immediately she hugs him extremely tight, and she added on how she is so happy that the prince had come to get her, and as she explained on how she was lonely all by herself. She tells him that he needs to bring her back to the castle so they can warm each other up. And as she was saying this from the back, Misa got angry, asking if he is thinking of betraying her or something. The prince started to explain to both of them on how this is not what it looks like, and obviously the real princess was not happy herself, so she asks why the prince is with the assassin from that time. And as both of them just start to grab him, he seems like a lucky person, but also a misfortunate person, and as both of them started to pull him to each other, they started to ask on who exactly he will choose. As he just thinks, he remembers on how on one side he is going to get harassed and mistreated like he always has been, and on the other hand, Misa was much calmer and much more renowned and much more comfortable for him. So he looks to his side, and as he was about to say something, Misa just loses it, and she starts to put him in an armbar. She just goes crazy, asking if a prince like him thinks he can decide to play with her feelings and throw her out of the game. She adds that she can become a monster too, and he needs to choose her over everything. As she was saying this, both of them started to argue one more time, and they started to viciously pull the prince toward themselves. Suddenly the real princess attacked Misa, but she dodges and lands on top of the prince's head. She twists his head in a really angry gesture and cracks his neck, sending him to the ground. As the real princess screamed at the top of her lungs, Misa added that now they can talk to each other like real women and get over this. Misa was not holding back anymore. She started to add that today she is going to kill her and take the princess's position for good. In this way, she can enjoy all the gourmet meals, lavish decorations, and vibrant dresses all to herself. As she cried about how she dreamed of this from the day she was born, she added that this is nothing more than a fairy tale for her. Misa makes a dominating pose, and she tells the real princess that she is completely going to wipe her out of existence to become the true princess once and for all. The real princess just went crazy. She did not care about the luxury or the castle. All she really cared about was the prince, and she screamed that Misa cannot put her foot on the prince that she loves. As both of them argued, they once again began to engage in furious exchanges. This time Misa gets hit and she feels the strange energy and power that the real princess possesses. As the real princess attacked Misa, she started to mutter about how for all her life she was protected, kept safe and told what to do. She cried that it was no fun and that it was boring until the prince came into her life and gave her hope and everything she ever wanted. She added that even if she dies, she is not going to hand over the prince. She pulls her hand away from the shade into the sun, and immediately it bursts into flames. As Misa noticed this, the princess just goes crazy and starts to tear up, asking Misa for help. As Misa starts to help him, the prince opens his eyes only to see that Misa and the princess were going crazy. Moments later, after everything settles down, it turns out that the real princess has a big problem. Whenever she exposes herself to sunlight, she gets burned. Misa obviously wanted to just kill the princess and be done with it, but the prince tells her that because of this body, the real princess cannot return to the castle. It would become a disaster as a monster princess would weaken the kingdom. As the prince explained how dangerous this could be, Misa just laughed, adding that the real princess can live in a remote location if they have mercy on her. Misa pointed to herself, adding that she is going to take full responsibility and take care of everything the princess holds dear. As the real princess refuses to listen, she asks if the prince is thinking of abandoning her. She could not handle the thought of being alone, but the prince added that this is far bigger than their own personal feelings. On the other hand, the princess added that if he is being deceived by this woman, she can help him, and for the mishap they had earlier, she would only punish him slightly. She went crazy, adding that if Misa does anything wrong to him, she is going to chop her into tiny pieces. Misa screams at the prince to just run away because the real princess no longer has any remorse or emotions. Misa added that they can use the sunlight to run as fast as possible. As they fled, the real princess just kept looking at them, getting further and further away. Instead of being heartbroken by this act, she started to mutter to herself that the real fun will surely begin. She added that she is going to make everything work out in the night and she will surely love him harder than anything. As she says this, the other two run into the nearby castle door. Once inside, the prince cried that he is so glad they are alive. Misa added that after the sunlight is gone, the princess could attack one more time. Just then, the maid joined them and greeted them, asking what had happened. Both of them were sweaty, and immediately she assumed they had been doing something scandalous. She screamed, adding that they cannot do those things outside where they might get caught. She obviously misinterpreted the situation. Misa makes a pissed expression, grabs the prince, and tells him they need to walk away right now. As they leave, the maid starts to feel uncomfortable. She notices that their attitude and way of talking to each other is quite different. She points out that the princess seems like a different person. Hearing this, Misa quickly hugs the prince extremely tight, asking why the maid would think that. The maid added that they haven't kissed each other today, which left Misa stargazed. She hugs him even tighter, wondering if she really has to do this in front of everyone. The maid remembers that the princess was a perverted and touchy woman who never hesitated to show affection in public. Misa screams, asking why a mere maid would ask something like this, but the maid kept insisting that they haven't kissed or smooched yet. Misa tightens her grip and screams that she can't do kisses in public because it is inappropriate. However, the maid reminds Misa of her actual habits, mentioning all the disgusting things she used to do publicly. Misa was worried since this was new to her and not something she was comfortable with. She was squeezing the prince so hard he couldn't breathe, so he suggested that if she doesn't want to do a full-on smooch, she could just kiss him on the skin. Misa was drowning in guilt and embarrassment. Her high ego was not okay with this. She wanted to keep the physical acting to a level where she could still enjoy her lavish life, but the maid's request was starting to hit home. As the maid showed more suspicion, asking if she was really the princess, Misa swallowed her pride. She looks at the prince and tells him she doesn't know what to do, but she won't run away from him. The prince just tells her she needs to hurry up and do it. He breaks the ice by adding that usually, the princess was the more aggressive one who did the kissing. This made the maid even more sure that this person was an imposter. In the very next second, Misa ends up kissing the prince. As she lets go, the maid's mouth opens wide. Misa makes a questionable face, adding that she wasn't able to hold herself back anymore and suggests the maid go away so they can have their fun time. The maid was completely humbled and realized her suspicion might have been wrong. She leaves, muttering that the perverted princess is surely the same as always. However, she wasn't 100% convinced, thinking about romance novels where a real princess dies and an imposter takes her place. The prince was thankful the test was passed. Misa, still in character, added that she was embarrassed because of her torn clothes and dragged him back to their room. Once there, Misa started to tear up, crying that her first kiss was taken from her because of a suspicious maid. The prince tells her it's a small thing and she shouldn't be so sensitive. Misa wasn't having it, crying that this is a huge deal for an assassin and that the prince should comfort her instead of harassing her. The prince starts to get softer with Misa, adding that she doesn't really look or sound like the assassin she portrayed herself to be. As he takes more interest in her, Misa gets angry and reminds him never to betray her. She added that the monster princess will surely die tomorrow because she is going to go all out and kill her in the sunlight. Misa asks the prince if he misses the old princess or what he thinks of her. The prince looks to his side, adding that Misa herself is a fine woman and he has no complaints. Misa's mouth opened wide and she started blushing over the compliment. She tells him she is going to take a bath and then questions if they are supposed to bathe together. The prince breaks the ice, telling her they will bathe separately. Finally free for a moment, Misa realizes that as a low-life assassin, she is now living a princess's life and cannot complain. She throws her worries aside, while on the other hand, the prince is still terrified that if the real princess returns, she will kill him. During the bath, Misa had no idea that she was about to get extremely close with the maid as they enjoyed their time. Misa started to reflect on how an assassin like her was all of a sudden enjoying a luxury life, almost having so much fun. She vividly remembered her whole life, where she was usually starved and always looking for ways to comfort herself from the hunger she had to endure. In one instance, when mice actually approached her, instead of killing and eating them immediately, she started to comfort them, adding that they could be her friends. She thought it was really weird to have friends because they give you a feeling of support. Even though Misa wanted to devour them, she decided to hold back. Now, Misa started to think that if she goes on like this, she can perhaps make a really good friend out of the maid she has been hanging out with, so she started to make a boost to have a better relationship with her. As she actually creeped out the maid during the bath, the maid quickly backed down and asked if she even remembered her name. Misa froze, having no idea if she should answer properly or not. She asked if it was a riddle, and the maid exclaimed that she had been working in the castle for a long time and surely the princess must know her name. Outside, the prince was getting impatient, asking why Misa was taking such a long time. Back in the showers, Misa took a leap of confidence and ended up saying the maid's name out loud, telling her that she surely knows it. As the maid quietly went off and did not speak a thing, she was now certain that the princess was a different person. After finishing their bath, Misa passed out a really vibrant and beautiful smile, telling the maid that she was looking forward to their time together. As the maid lowered her head, Misa ran off like a happy, cheerful person. On the other hand, the maid was sure that in all the time she had worked there, the princess had never shown an ounce of interest in her or remembered her name or existence at all. She was sure something was wrong. Back with the prince, a rainstorm caught him off guard, and as he noticed the castle suddenly got dark, he started to roam around only to get spooked by a window. He saw a person and immediately spun back to see the real princess breaking into the castle. She muttered to the prince that she was sorry to keep him waiting, but she mocked and threatened him, saying she was going to surely enjoy his company and make up for all the teasing he had done. The maid was now certain the princess was an imposter. Although the romance part was a bit confusing, she remembered that during the real princess's time, her only interest was the prince and nothing else. She was sure the two were different people because the real princess would make an absolutely terrified and stressful expression if anyone tried to call on her, whereas the new princess was bright, friendly, and charming. Back with Misa, as she ran back to her place, she was happy that she had finally made a friend, thinking the princess's life was so good. She wanted to avoid exposing the truth at all costs. Meanwhile, the prince was pushed down by the aggressive real princess, who added that they could finally start. The prince started to get PTSD as the princess added that she was not going to forgive him for betraying her and would make him pay for everything she had gone through. She made a predatory expression, and the prince let out a huge scream. Misa heard the scream and immediately started to dash, realizing the princess might have returned since the weather made it possible for her to travel that far. Inside the room, the prince screamed for Misa to help him, and Misa started to bang on the door. Things got spicy inside as the prince screamed about human rights violations while the princess took her sweet time enjoying herself. When Misa finally entered, she saw poor Yu laying there helpless and drained of life. Misa asked if he was alright, and he just muttered that it was a nightmare. The real princess added that it had been so long since she had a favor from him and made a sickeningly predatory expression, saying she was on fire and could not run from the power of love. As soon as she saw Misa, she dashed toward her and attacked. Misa took the hit and hit a wall pretty hard. The prince asked Misa if she was okay, and Misa noticed a big crater in the wall, realizing the princess's speed and bloodlust were beyond measure and she was stronger than anything. The real princess approached Misa with uncoordinated steps, adding that nothing can get between her and the prince and that Misa's fleeting dreams were a waste of time. Immediately, the prince joined in and stood in front of Misa, screaming for the princess not to lay a single hand on her. The real princess snapped, asking why he would protect someone like her. The prince explained that her body was currently unstable. Since she can burn in the sunlight, if the country finds out about her condition, the nation will collapse. He screamed that they needed a double of her at this point. He told her she could have his body and his love, but she could not kill Misa because it was important for the kingdom and went beyond their love life. Just then, someone started to knock on the door. The maid alerted the prince that the princess was an imposter. As she opened the door, she saw Misa near a wall. Misa realized she had messed up because she had been too kind to the maid, whereas the real princess never gave an ounce of care. The maid immediately pointed to Misa, screaming to the prince that this was an assassin who was aiming to kill the princess. Then she looked forward and saw the real princess, and she freaked out. It turned out the secret both Misa and the prince were trying to keep had leaked to one of the head maids who controlled a big portion of the castle. As part 1 ends here, the next chapter promises a furious fight between Misa and the real princess, while the prince has to handle political matters and a super obsessive girlfriend whose weird love life is impossible to sustain. With the maid figuring out the secret, their biggest goal is to prioritize the secret while keeping the nation intact.